Okay, so we all know that relationships are literally everything. And so the path that I take people down is vast. It's wide, it's also deep. And I wanted to share this video specifically to give you an introduction. If you're new to me, if you don't know me, my name's Leigh-Anne Lopinto. I am a psychologist and a breathwork teacher. I specialize in relationships, and relationships is a vast field, right? And many people teach relationships, many people have their own style and things that they specialize in. And where do we even begin with this work? Oh my goodness. Well, I think it's probably useful if you don't know me to learn about my story and where I come from, because what I've actually walked through in my life informs everything that I do. I'm not going to rehash the story, but I will post a link to part one and part two of my story on the podcast because it's really helpful for you to get to know me and why I'm so devoted to this work. Okay. So, about 3 years ago, I was shown through something personal that I walked through a very intense body of work that came through. And the bigger name of it is actually the path to divine union, which I know seems so big and so huge. But it is a path that encompasses three levels: level one, level two, level three. And so I've talked about this before. If you heard the episode on the podcast that I did called The New Paradigm of Relationships, I outline very specifically what these levels are. Today, I want to spend a lot of time talking about level one, the foundation. Whether or not you care about spiritual language and divine union and all that stuff doesn't matter, because level one, the foundation, is what each and every one of us should be devoting our time to. Level one is super foundational work that applies to the vast majority of people on this planet right now. And so, what does this look like on a practical level? The people who come to me who are ready for the level one work of this path, we focus on very, very foundational things like moving into secure attachment, which is huge. And I'm going to go in depth a little bit more into each of these sections I'm about to share with you. Number two, freeing ourselves from codependency. Number three, learning about boundaries. Number four, really developing excellent communication skills. For most of us, from the more passive side of things and indirect communication into very clear, clean, assertive language, which has nothing to do with being aggressive at all. It's just actually healthy communication skills. And so all of these actually tie together, each and everything that I just shared with you: attachment style, codependency, communication, self-love, boundaries. They all overlap, but I also like to name them separately for people who are maybe, these are sort of keywords that pop up as like, yes, I'm here for boundaries, right? Yes, I'm here for self-love. Self-love is the foundation of everything here. So the foundation of this path rests on, this is the bricks, right? The brick and mortar that everything else is built on, right? It is literally like the foundation of a house. You cannot build to the heights of anything unless you have a strong and solid foundation. So this is why we start here. I am so excited because I am really fired up for back to the basics, foundational level, ground level work like I've never been before in my career, right? And so I know this path through and through. I've walked through all of the levels. It is not like a linear thing where we just go straight up to the top of what's available to us in relationships and then we're done. It's actually more of like a cycle or it's like an up and down thing. I always have to go back to the foundation and check in on it, especially with, my partner and I, or even the foundation of any relationship that you have. It's like a garden that needs tending to, right? It's like a garden. You can do really foundational work to set that foundation and have it be strong and solid, but it is also like a living, breathing thing that needs love, care, and attention. So foundational work is always happening, right? It's always happening, right? We can always take things to the next level, tighten up communication, right? There's always infinite levels of boundaries. I was just working with a client deeply today who's clearly here to get, sometimes I joke, she's here to get a PhD level in boundaries. And so there's always the next level to go to in all of this, right? This path is so vast. And I know people like when people like me sort of have like a niche. And I actually kind of do. I have some niches that I'll share with you today, just so you can know if I'm your person or not. But I also really, there's a vast and wide landscape of relationships that we can explore. If you're new here, level two, we kind of move up to what I call conscious relationships. I know people use that term, but that's what was shown to me becomes available when we actually lay that foundation down, which involves level one does, to be honest with you, involve healing our trauma, recognizing our patterns, doing relational shadow work, etc. It frees up so much space for us to actually move into level two, which is really where the new paradigm of relationships is being birthed through us, through conscious relationships, which just for the sake of simplicity for this video, since I'm not going to go in depth into level two, conscious relationships, the way that I work with them, with people, is when we start to become awake and aware of the true purpose of relationships. Relationships are here for us, for our healing, for our growth, and our evolution. That is actually the purpose of relationships, right? And so I didn't always know this when I was younger. I had no idea. I had to learn through the fire and I was shown, right? And that there is a truth to it. You may have heard of people speaking about how relationships are a massive vehicle for our evolution. I know this through and through, I can promise you. Yes, romantic relationships is the most intense transformational vehicle to be able to do this work. However, you can use any relationship. And when you start to really become adept at what conscious relationships are and how we actually do them, you can and should apply this to every relationship in your life, right? Because we walk this path, we actually live this work through us in every relationship. And so conscious relationships is a whole thing. If you're interested to go in depth into each of the different levels, by the way, and I'm piquing your interest, I will post a link to the podcast episode where I actually get into the whole model, level one, two, three of the new paradigm of relationships. What I mean when I talk about the path to divine union. And also, there's a really foundational article on Substack that relates, and it's a very long one. It's called The War on Love, Sex, and Relationships. And it speaks about how this whole path, which is a path of soul evolution, really, through relationships, is being attacked by forces that don't want humans to evolve. And so there's a whole long list. And so as I speak, I'm like, okay, I have to remember to also put a link there. I know a lot of you have read that article before. Even in that article, I actually set the stage at the beginning by taking you through levels one, two, and three with links. That article in and of itself is a rabbit hole because it will give you links to resources for each and every section that I take you through. Let's return back to level one, which is applicable to literally every human on the planet, right? Most people are not necessarily in a place right now. There's no perfection. There's no perfection here, but I have to be honest with you. The vast majority of people out there, humans, are not yet in secure attachment. They haven't yet freed themselves from codependency. They're still stuck on the drama triangle. They haven't mastered boundaries. They don't know how to communicate in a clean, assertive way. This is the vast majority of people right now. There is major confusion and suffering happening when it comes to human relationships. I think we all know this, right? This is why I've devoted my life to this work, in addition to the fact that I didn't even plan on doing this path. It was just what has happened through me and what I've lived through in my life. And so what we go through, we then end up serving other people, and I continue to walk the path with you. But the foundation is everything. And so, if I'm really here to help the majority of people, I have to actually I have to deepen into the foundation, right? Sometimes because I just have to let you into a secret. I love the higher levels. I love the higher levels. I love highly conscious relationships. I love spiritual partnership. I love advanced polarity. I love taking it to the top. There is what I call the top at this point in human history that's available to us is there. It's clear to me. I know the path and I want to share it with you, right? If you're a listener of the podcast, if you watch my videos, if you resonate with my work, you already know how passionate I am and why. And I give so much for free because I cannot hold this back, right? From sharing it with you. And I want to be able to show you what has been shown to me first through my personal lived experience, always. And then in my work with, at this point, over 1,000 clients, I've been working privately one-on-one and in groups with people since 2011, so the past 15 years. So I've had the direct honor, the serious honor of being able to work with so many people all across the board, right? Especially in like the first half of those 15 years, I worked with all ages on all things, got a very general perspective of helping people. But now I want to actually let you into a certain type of pattern of client who comes to me. I do speak about this before, so some of you already know, but there is a typical kind of patterning to the client who comes to me. And so I just wanted to share that here so that you can see if you resonate with this, because this is actually, to be honest with you, where I can probably serve best. And sometimes I don't even need to lay this out specifically. The people who come to me are drawn into my field because this is what I've had to work through. So it's sort of like the younger version of me, right? That I then had to heal and transmute and come into where I'm at right now, still on the path, but I am just a few steps ahead, right, of where I used to be. So the pattern has to do with somebody who doesn't fully love themselves. They don't have great boundaries. They get themselves into relationships where they're not treated well. Maybe there's disrespect all the way to the end of the spectrum of abuse, right? They don't get treated well. There's codependency running. They might have rescuer tendencies where they always put other people above them and they leave themselves in the dust, right? Self-abandonment. And ultimately, these people need to learn, number one, how to love, care, and respect for themselves, how to actually build a spine, to learn about what a boundary is and why they're worthy of setting them in relationships. They need to learn how to actually move from a more passive style of communication to speaking clearly and directly, what we call assertive communication. They need to be able to honor themselves just as much as they're honoring other people. They usually need to correct things like overgiving, taking over responsibility, and making excuses for everybody else's bad behavior that is harmful. That is the type of person that comes to me, and these are all patterns that I've had to overcome and face in very difficult ways. I often say that my work comes from blood, sweat, and tears of actually walking the path. And so that's why I speak very passionately about the things that I teach to people, right? And so that is the typical pattern of person who comes to me. It's not always that person fits it to a T, but there's usually certain commonalities, especially in the visionaries community, the group, right, of all of us coming together, which I will also put a link to that in the show notes as well, because incredible people taking this work around relationships and living it and practicing it. And what better place to actually practice it than together in a group space with other people who are on the path, right? And we're all so human. We're stumbling, we're falling, we're picking ourselves back up. We're committed to this path, right? Many of us feel like we actually don't have a choice. Life has shown us that you can't actually go back in time and continue to repeat the same patterns. We have done that for years and years. Oftentimes we reach a breaking point where we know, right? And so we get lots of hard lessons that teach us that it's just not something that we're able to do much longer. So that community is incredible. Let's bring it back to the patterning as well. I just want to name certain things, right? I also have this video, a couple videos back where I talk about the use of psychological labels and how I'm not interested in diagnoses, but I am interested in just naming patterns for the sake of clarity and usefulness, because these patterns have a truth to them. And they often play out in very textbook ways. The benefit to understanding where we have these patterns and we're running them is to be able to actually then be linked to the solutions and the very often textbook ways that we know how to actually transcend them. Okay, so the empath who always attracts the narcissistic people. That's a label, right, that we can use. The insecurely attached person that always gets themselves involved with another insecurely attached person, the anxious and the avoidant, for example, right? These are patterns that I often work with people. I usually get equal numbers of people who are either anxious attached, or avoidant attached. In fact, fascinatingly enough, because I had to recover from disorganized attachment, which is actually a little bit of both, and usually is found in those of us that have more complex trauma. So many people in my community also have disorganized attachment, by the way, which is again, it's a blend of a little bit of anxious, a little bit of avoidant mixed together in a fun package. And trust me, I know this one very well. And every single person can move into secure attachment. These are not fixed labels. I can preach this from the rooftops because still to this day, I see people who call themselves like attachment style coaches and stuff that are basically just reinforcing the label and creating self-perpetuating things. And these are not fixed identities. Attachment style wounds are just simply relationship wounds rooted in trauma programming and conditioning that all can be healed. And so the foundational work, I literally take you towards developing secure attachment. I don't often hear people doing this work. I remember when I started to talk about this publicly a few years back, I had one of my good friends who's a huge name influencer and very wise in her own right. She messaged me. She's like, "I have never even heard before that you're able to actually develop secure attachment." And it blew my mind. I was so happy that she reached out to me and she shared that because I guess I just made the assumption that people understood that. I mean, I knew that there were people speaking about it in terms of this is your attachment style for life, right? And then this is what you have to do to make everybody sort of accommodate you. And whew, there's so much that I could say about that, but we can and should do the healing work that we need to in order to move into secure attachment. This is a foundational thing that serves all of your relationships. Oh my goodness. I often say make secure attachment your North Star. I will say that over and over and over again. And there's overlap. When we do this work to heal and move into secure attachment, we also are simultaneously I was going to say attacking, right? We're also targeting codependency and freeing ourselves from it because there's overlap here. Codependency is something that's running in the vast majority of people. I would probably estimate 95% of people in this world are running codependency, and it does not have to be like this. I have a 2.5 hour teaching video. It's called The Trap of Codependency and How to Heal. Huge. It will teach you everything that you need to know about codependency and also how to begin to break free from it. And we just have to. This is actually when I say that we can't skip steps, we actually can't skip these steps. There's no way that we can actually build and co-create the new paradigm of relationships without doing this foundational work. The new paradigm of relationships includes a foundation of people who have mostly secure attachment and mostly are free of codependency. I'm not going to say 100% perfectly healed and pristine. However, it is really built on a very strong, rock solid foundation of secure attachment and freedom from codependency. And what I can tell you from lived experience is that the higher levels open to us, freeing up so much space. Just think for a moment if you did not have all of the trauma, all of the patterns, all of the conditioning looping you time and time again in the patterns that we've all run in our lives. That is a trap and it's a prison. And we are here to heal, but we are also massively positioned to expand right now, right? So there is not going to be any lifelong swimming in your trauma, in your patterns anymore. If I have anything to do with it, right? Because I've lived this, I've experienced it. This work is worth every step forward. Every step forward. Even if you just do the foundational work, it will improve your life massively. If you don't care about going to level 2 or level 3, higher level relationships, put that to the side, right? Level 1 in and of itself will massively overhaul your life and open you up to more happiness, more peace, more joy, more love. I promise you. And so I do have a group program that will become a very important piece within my body of work that I offer to the world. It's called the Foundation. This is going to be our first group program of meeting it. However, this is work that I do very deeply with people one-on-one, and I have been. It's also embedded in the mentorship for those of you who have gone through that deep, intensive experience. You know that we start there at level one. Now I'm turning this into a group program. There also will be access to do one-on-ones if you choose to, because it's very important to have access to do deep one-on-one work with people. However, I also need to really open this up to more people in a broader way because we actually don't have time. We don't have time to just, I don't have time, right? And we don't have time to just be working one-on-one with people. I love that work. That is where I get the most profound transformation and results. However, group work, especially in this age that we're stepping into, is also critical and crucial. So the foundation, that's the name of the group program. We're going to be meeting for our first group Sunday, March 22nd, just after the spring equinox in Aries, because it's a fresh start, it's a new beginning, and it is the foundation. There's no better time to do this work. And so I'm going to post a link also if you want to join us. I keep my group programs small and intimate. I usually cap them at 10. We will see. It's not going to be 50, 100 people, right? I can't, I will have to see if there's more than 10 that join. Regardless, it's going to be a smaller, more intimate container that we're going to be doing this foundational work, healing our ability to love ourselves, moving into secure attachment, freeing ourselves from codependency, practicing clear, direct, assertive communication, not just in the group, not just in the container, but we're going to apply this to our whole life together during our time together. Foundational work. Boundaries, right? That's another huge thing. And also, if you relate in any way, shape, or form to the patterning and the type of client that usually comes to me, this is for you. This is for you. If you have any questions at all of whether this program is good for you, just reach out. So, whether or not you choose to join that program, I'm just planting the seed here for you. We're going to start just after spring equinox. If you choose not to jump in, this work is absolutely foundational, and I give so many free resources with truly very practical things that you can start to do in your life now without ever having to work with me or anybody. I always do that. I'm devoted to being able to give you podcasts and videos with deep information on actionable things that you can do now. So there's never pressure. I never sort of hide things, but also simultaneously, the truth is that I could never have done this work without the support of my mentors, my therapist, and I just don't know if it's possible for us to do it without that support. So whether you choose to jump into the group or do one-on-ones, I'm devoted to this, right? Whether it's me or anybody else that you choose to work with, please work with somebody, right? We have to move beyond this sort of consumption of videos and information and think that that's doing the work. Partially it is to open to information, but we have to really, really get under the hood. And we can't really heal relationship wounds by ourselves fully. We can do some of the work solo, but healing relationship wounds happens in relationship with other people. So I think I'm going to start to wrap up. I hope this gives you a really good taste of the foundational work of level one. Many more resources that will be posted in the video description in the show notes. So if you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, leave comments as well. Ask me questions. I am here. I will answer you. And I have so much love for each and every one of you. You have no idea who are on this path. And so talk to you all very soon.